Hi, I'm Kenny Anderson, Director of Multicultural Affairs for the City of Huntsville, and welcome to Impact. Each week we bring you information about exciting things that are happening right here in our community, and today will be a little different. Normally I say today's not going to be any different than the previous times, but today we're going to be talking to a very, very powerful motivational speaker who we spoke to once before. Well, he's back and he's going to tell us more about his story, and I hope that you gather some inspiration and motivation from the words that he shares with you today. William Hollis is back with us, Urban Youth's vocal powerhouse. Welcome back to my broadcast.
It is a pleasure to be here, Mr. Kenny Anderson.
Man, listen, let me tell you, you walk through the door, man, the energy just fills the room, man. I love it.
Man, I'm just falling in love with the process and falling in love with life. It's really fun when you can wake up every day and do what you love. You don't need an alarm clock. You don't need any of that, Kenny. It's just a pleasure to be here, man.
It's great to have you. Listen, the last time we talked a little bit about your story, and I want to advance that a little bit today because I really want to talk to you today about giving people some specific tips on staying motivated and staying engaged in the process, finding their purpose in life, things that I know you're very passionate about,
Absolutely.
Things that you share. And I know that since we last talked, your life has kind of taken a little bit of a turn because you've been rolling, brother. I've been following you.
It's the Kenny Anderson effect. You got good luck, Kenny. You got good luck. But yeah, Kenny, purpose is what I speak about. I just learned that some of the biggest entrepreneurs and some of the biggest people in the world, it wasn't money that helped them get there. It was the fact that they realized their purpose, they realized their dream, and let me repeat that, realized their dream. They realized what specific lane that they were very good in. And I tell people all the time, you wanna know when you found what you love, it's when you're waking up at 2 or 3, 4 in the morning, screaming at the sun saying, rise, so I can go out here and do what I want to do. So I can go out here and make my life better. And serving. One thing you talked to me about before the show, serving. You said, just serve a little.
Yeah.
If you serve a little, your blessings will pour in.
Yeah.
And just fight for your purpose. Don't think about the money. Don't think about the diamond chains, the cars, any of that stuff. Because I'm going to tell you, the process is real and you cannot cheat it.
And you learn in the process. That's the reason to go through the process so that you can learn, so that you can make adjustments, so that you can expose yourself to opportunities to grow.
Kenny, I was homeless when I found out I was a speaker. I walked into a school in Reading, Pennsylvania, while I was sneaking in a hotel called the Abraham Lincoln Hotel, downtown Reading, Pennsylvania. And an hour later, they asked me, how much do you charge to speak? I volunteered to speak to 10 kids. And when I walked out the building, I'm walking back to the hotel. Halfway there, I get a call from the school and they say, how much are you charging? I had to make something up on the fly. I was homeless, Kenny. So what I realized was, people didn't know when I started that motivational page that all those words that I would say to them, I was saying to myself.
Wow.
The world just happened to hear it. And it was basically like, what you think is sorry and makes you look weak, makes you look stronger than anybody that walks this earth. Because a man that can tell his pain and not his glories is a powerful man.
Yeah.
And what I learned was, if you learn what God truly wants for you, and this is what I tell people when they got a talent and everything in order, they got the team, they got the money, but the dream is still not working. God has to make you rich on the inside before he makes you rich on the outside. And he does this, Kenny.
He does, and see, it's focusing on those internal qualities. It's the same thing I say to people all the time too, that people are sometimes distracted and even blinded by the external things that are going on around them. And their pursuit for something is actually not really, it's actually betraying where their heart really is. Because the reality is that if you pursue something that you really love because your passion is right, because your motive is right, you're going to have it whether or not somebody wants you to or not. And it's going to create a sense of personal satisfaction for yourself. But if you're pursuing it for the wrong reasons, that thing can be taken away from you and you change overnight and become a different person than you ever were. not in a positive way, but in a very negative, unhealthy, unproductive way. You'll go through the self-pity, you go through wallowing in shame and embarrassment, humiliation. You'll lose your direction in life as a consequence of that. And you have to always focus on the positive stuff, which also means you need to surround yourself with a crew that's going to be positive, people that are actually buying into and maybe even investing in your success.
You're right, Kenny, and I'm learning as a 27-year-old kid, young man. I'm learning that a lot of friends that I had growing up in my neighborhood, 85% of them is either in the penitentiary or dead.
Wow.
So the way I look at life after I buried my mother, and the day I buried my mother is the same day I found out that my uncle sold her the heroin that killed her. And she told me this was her favorite uncle. She used to always tell me this. But when I lost my mother, I realized that when God take people from you, he's giving you another type of promotion. He's making you rise up and be who he truly wants you to be. Because a lot of people get discouraged when they lose people that's close to them, Kenny. And for me, I know I lost half my heart, half my soul, and half my brain when I lost my mother. But I realized something in the process of that. I've always been big on Greek mythology, kings and queens. I always loved it. And the first video I saw that pictured kings and queens was the Michael Jackson video when he had Eddie Murphy. Remember the Time.
Yeah.
And I always been obsessed with king and queen. But when I looked up the history of kings, I realized that every great king before he became king had to take a loss. He had to learn how to take the pain that most people cannot. And I realized that God is building shepherds all around us, because if there's no sheep, there could be no shepherd. You know what I'm saying? So I realize that I have a responsibility. I realize that every day I wake up, I have a standard that I have to live by. I can't talk about popping bottles in the club or going out drinking or doing all these crazy things. I'm still young, but what I realize is where I'm from, you're gonna have to be a man before you become one. And you're gonna have to be exceptional. And the way you become exceptional is diving into your dream every single day you wake up. Kenny, I have slept on the concrete in front of offices of CEOs, just to give them a press kit. It is, when people say they want it, it's levels to want it. Like, do you want it to shine on people? Or do you want it to show another kid that's in the projects, that's growing up with his mother nodding on the couch, high, drunk, father in the penitentiary? Do you want to show him that he's truly a king?
Wow.
And a lot of people, you said something, Kenny, you said a lot of people forget where they came from. And I have a saying in a speech that I give to every shelter that I go to, and it touches them every time. I say, get back to the child that laid on your mother's lap. Because there was the child that dreamed. There was the child that had life. There was the child that knew beautiful things. So when you getting off in life and you bury your mother and you get lost in this life of sin that's all around you, you will forget who you are. So I tell people every single morning, I try to tell them, look in the mirror and remember how you got where you are. Always be neighborhood, never Hollywood.
Yeah. And always remember that child in your mother's lap. You know, that childlikeness is so important. I like to tell the story. I was speaking to a group one time, and there was a 4-year-old boy in the room with his mom, and he was kind of sitting there interested in what was going on. Although he didn't understand everything, I wanted to include him in the conversation. And so as I'm moving around the room asking one person, what do you want to be when you grow up? What do you dream about? What do you aspire to be? I thought to look at this 4-year-old kid, and I asked him, what do you want to be when you grow up? That little kid looked at me, and he said, I want to be a band. And everybody's kind of looking at him, I want to be a band. And think about this for a minute. This kid didn't say, I want to be a flautist, I want to be a saxophonist, I want to play bass. This kid said, I want to be a band, because nobody ever told him what he couldn't be. He was so young. In his mind, he was dreaming even at that point. And he was imagining all of these possibilities in life. We should never allow life to rob us of that opportunity to dream and dream as big as we want to dream.
Absolutely, Kenny. And a follow-up on that, you just told me a kid that dreamed. I'm going to tell you about a kid over in Laurelwood Apartments. I walked outside and I saw him tossing the football up by himself. Every day I see him running from light to light. And one day I told him to give me the football, I'm gonna play with you. I tossed the ball around with him. First he was nervous. And then I started to talk to him. I said, young king, who you stay with here? He said, my grandmother. I said, where your mother? She's sick. And when he said sick, I dropped tears immediately because my grandmother used to tell me that when I used to get taken away from my mother, she was sick. So I immediately knew what he was saying. And the kid looked at me and he said, you been through that too? I said, I have. He said, I'm gonna be one of the greatest running backs you ever seen. And when I told him that your mother still loves you, but I'm gonna tell you, you got a task on your hands that's gonna be harder than you can ever imagine. You might lose somebody on the way. You might get hit by the bullets of life. But I'm gonna tell you, young king, if you continue to fight every single day for your life, you will be successful. And that little kid looked up to me with the biggest smile in the world, and he told me, thank you. And the only thing I remembered was how some of the older cats in my neighborhood used to get out the car, come out on the field, and throw the football around. And Delvin Sullivan, that great man of Huntsville, Alabama, Delvin Sullivan, I want to give him a special thanks because that man, when I was homeless working at the Boys and Girls Club, that man came in that gym and I told him about a speech called Young King that I created. And that's how I tell people God sends angels. He said, you created this speech? I said, yes, sir. He said, I listened to this speech a year ago. He was in the gym. I helped him bring in backpacks. He taught me about business. He taught me about the LLC. And he told me that day, he said, William, don't you ever forget God. Don't you ever let an organization or a company stop you from talking about the man that blessed you with the gift you have. Because for you to have a learning disability, for you to bury your mom to a drug overdose, for you to have your father in prison, for you to have all that on you at one time, and you to make it through, it's only God. So I want you every day to say, don't say I did it, say he did it. And if you give him the praise, everything will play out itself. But I tell people, mentors are so important. Mentors are so important. Mentors can be the difference between life and death because that mentor can tell you something. Delvin Sullivan told me something when I went to the hospital and I needed medicine and I couldn't pay for it, and I got in the car and I started crying tears. He told me a story about him when he first got home from the military and he didn't have $1 to his name. He said, my account was empty, Will. But 2 months later, I got a great job and I got a family now. And I didn't know he didn't have a son.
Wow.
A biological son.
Yeah.
And he took me on, and this man showed me what a father is and how important a father is to a young man. He's gonna help us stop the mistakes.
Yeah.
So he said, Will, don't you go speak about lions and tigers and bears. You speak about suicide. You speak about the heroin epidemic. You take your gift and make it as relatable to these young kids as you can. And if you grow to the entrepreneurs and you grow to the businesses, then it happens. But don't you never forget the foundation.
Wow. That's why I love talking to this brother right here. He's real, and he definitely doesn't mind sharing his heart. And William Hollis, this will not be the last time you're on my show, I hope. Like I keep saying, when you out there making your moves, never forget us here in Huntsville.
Kenny, I want to thank you. I want to thank Huntsville, Alabama, because when I came here, I was a broken kid that thought he couldn't accomplish anything. And Kenny, for you having me on this show, this type of things, keep a kid going, keep a kid dreaming, keep a kid believing. And every time I watch you on this show, on the internet, if I watch you on Facebook, Kenny, you got the light of God over you, man. And what you do is so amazing. And Kenny, I just hope I get to learn from you for many, many, many years.
Well, likewise, William. I really appreciate you, man. Thank you for being here on our telecast today.
Thank you, Kenny.
Enjoyed the conversation.
Thank you.
All right. Boy, William Hollis. You can see why he's urban youth's mouthpiece. because he certainly has something to say, not just to young people. He's got something to say to you old cats too. Some of you old school people that are still rolling in certain kind of ways, that you should never stop dreaming. Never give up your dream. Never defer your dream to somebody who's never successfully accomplished theirs. Never allow somebody to extinguish the flame in your own life. Keep pressing forward, and you will achieve. We hope that you'll like the Facebook page, Impact with Kenny Anderson, where you can see this dynamic video of William Hollis breaking it down for us today and previously, and look forward to future telecasts where William will come back and share more inspiration with us. We also hope that you will continue to stay tuned to this broadcast and support us by just tuning in and letting somebody else know that we're doing some positive things right here in the Huntsville community, and we're spreading it out to the world. For Impact, I'm Kenny Anderson. We'll see you again soon.